Because we're going to turn it around, and we're going to start winning again. We're going to win so much. We're going to win at every level. We're going to win with every single facet. We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more. We're going to win so much.
What a great clip that is. That's a classic. It's obviously an old clip, but man, we enjoy it every time. Andrew Klavan has a clip that he does. It's a whole song. It's a Trump winning song, and he keeps claiming he's not going to play it anymore, but he keeps playing it, and man, we love it every time. So that's a goodie. Welcome to another edition of Spark the Conversation. This is your host, Mark the Spark. Let's get into today's news. So our first clip, we've got Tom Homan talking about the border. We've got actually a few clips of him today because, man, this guy is a boss. I so enjoy listening to Tom Homan talk because he is just like everybody, almost everybody so far in the Trump administration. They're just an open book. Down to earth, regular. Everybody seems like regular people. They're not above us. They're not too good to answer questions. They're just normal people who are, I mean, it's the most transparent thing I've ever seen. For a guy, me, I do not trust government as far as I can throw them. And I'm as limited government as they come. But this guy is amazing. He knows what needs to be done. And maybe, you know what, maybe it's not even that. Maybe it's just the fact that it's such a huge break from the last 4 years when we had no leadership at all. Everything was chaos, and it seemed intentionally so. This guy is great. So here he is calling out the Pope because the Pope criticized Trump's border plan as being evil, not good, whatever. He doesn't really want to, it doesn't seem like this Pope wants to take a stance on, regular Catholic agenda items like abortion, which I never hear him talk about, and we're going to get into that later. But he is also a hypocrite, as is going to be pointed out in this clip.
I want to ask one final question. The Pope this week said that it's a disgrace what we're now doing with this new government, deporting all of these people. We've got, obviously there's going to be a lot of media searching for the sad stories here, trying to turn public opinion against this operation. What's your message to the American people as you guys do this work?
Well, let me give a message to the Pope. I'm a lifelong Catholic. I was born Catholic. I've been through Catholic doctrine. But he ought to concentrate on fixing the Catholic Church, first of all. He's got big problems there. And in the Vatican, they have a wall around the Vatican. If you illegally enter the Vatican, the crime is serious. You'll be charged with a serious crime, be jailed.
Yeah.
So he can protect the Vatican where he lives. He can build a wall where he lives. Would American people not allow that? No. Securing the border saves lives. He needs to understand that. When we secure the border, when less people come, less women get raped by the cartel, less children die in the river, less Americans die from fentanyl overdoses. He ought to stick to it. He ought to stick to the Catholic Church and fix that. That's a mess.
That's exactly right. And we did the details on the wall that's around the Vatican, and it's even nicer than Trump's wall. For as much as Trump likes his wall, the wall around the Vatican is really, really impressive. Tom Homan, good to see you, sir. We appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So what they say here is absolutely correct. I mean, you're talking about the fact that we need borders to be a country. And it's, again, we just look at it from a common sense point of view. Okay, yes, there's obviously, they point out the hypocrisy of the Vatican being surrounded by a wall. And I think that their argument would be, oh, well, we have to have a wall because we can't take care of everybody and we have to protect the Pope. Well, guess what? We have the same argument. We have a wall because we can't take in everybody. If you ever taken some kind of first responder training, first aid, CPR, something like that, the first rule when you respond to a scene is make sure it's safe for yourself, right? Because what happens? If you don't make sure it's safe for yourself, then we have 2 victims and nobody responding to the victims, potentially. Or we just have 2 victims to respond to now instead of 1. So that's the first rule. Make sure it's safe for yourself. It's the same with the country. We have to make sure our border is safe. We have to be America first. We have to be protecting ourselves. We have to make sure that we are able to help the world. And if we have no border and we're overwhelmed with everybody coming to this country, then obviously we will not be able to help anybody. And just America's existence, you could show the data to prove the economy of the world has improved exponentially since the creation of the United States. It's a really simple concept. It's easy to prove. The data is there. And if we have no border and we allow everybody to come in, I mean, you can see we've had millions, 6 million people come in the last 4 years. And you can see the effect that would have. Imagine 10 times that even. And that wouldn't even cover the poor populations of the world. So, and then there would be no America to help anybody. And there would be more poor people because everybody in America would be poor and desolate. So it's just common sense stuff. The Pope doesn't understand, I guess, how basic economics works. And he just wants to believe in some, policy that it's impossible. It can't happen. So, whatever. He's out of touch. And man, this Pope is so far left. And I hate to call out a Pope like that, but geez, this guy is brutal. And I hope when we get the next Pope that when the group convenes of cardinals to pick the next Pope, that they realize the error that they made and that they need to correct. And, he's right too. The Pope has his own problems to fix, and he better focus on that as well. Well, in our next clip, we got another one, Tom Homan. Again, a boss, man. This guy is just crushing. So they're talking about the mayors and governors who don't want to participate with the deportation of criminals. Let's remember, we're looking for, they're all criminals if they cross the border illegally. That's the first aspect. But they're going after serious criminals who are supposed to be, or who cross the border illegally and are not supposed to be in this country. Okay? And beyond that, there's 1.2 million or 1.6 million, one of those numbers, of people with deportation orders already. Okay? These people have already gone through the immigration process and had been determined that they do not belong here, that their asylum claims are false if that's how they came in. They've overstayed a visa, something like that. They're supposed to be deported already. That's not even counting people who have committed serious crimes and been released into the public. That's who these mayors and governors are protecting. They're protecting criminals who are dangerous to the public. You have to understand, these are public officials that are not willing to protect the people who voted for them. It's absolutely, it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing to see that. And not only that, what else is mind-blowing? I mean, if you're a governor, mayor, you're supposed to be looking at what is going to get me reelected, if nothing else. Trump received a mandate. This was one of the top issues in the election. And Trump won really very strongly. And this was a mandate that he received to take care of this issue. He's doing what he promised, right? He is taking care of people's number one issue, which will help take care of the number two issue, which is the economy. So for mayors and governors to not understand that this is what the people want. And you can look at polling too. Polling is like 78% of Americans wanted mass deportations. I mean, if you're looking to be reelected, that's kind of important. Here's the clip.
defending our residents every possible way. Well, she's not very smart, I'll give her that, because what I just said is President Trump's going to prioritize public safety threats. What mayor or governor doesn't want public safety threats out of their communities? I mean, that's our number one responsibility, is to protect our communities. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So she helps us, she gets the hell out of the way, because we're going to do it. And look, there's a clear line here, and they can't cross a clear line. I would suggest she read Title 8, United States Code 1324 III, that says, you can't harbor or conceal an illegal alien in front of law enforcement officers. So I hope she don't cross that line. They can not cooperate, but there are certain laws in place that they can't cross, and I hope she doesn't cross it.
So yeah, if they're going to harbor and conceal, I believe the Trump administration is not playing games. I wait for the day. I mean, most of these governors and mayors have backed down already from taking a tough stance, the ones who made this kind of stance. But I believe they'll throw them in jail. And, I would kind of like to see one of them stand up and actually follow through with their promise, which I don't think is going to happen, and put them in jail. And then they're going to claim, oh, we're targeting them. The same thing that they did to Trump for the last 4 years by trying to put him and his family in jail. The same thing that Biden is claiming why he had to pardon his family, because he did it to Trump and now he's afraid that it's coming back to him. That's what they're going to claim. But they're wrong. Because these people are actually committing crimes. They've been warned not to commit the crime. It's in clear black and white in government code, as Tom Homan just explained. And consequences. So, if it happens, it happens. But here's another clip of Tom Homan talking about using the military to help deport these immigrants. And we've already seen, there's a picture out there of a big, I think it's a Galaxy Air Force plane being loaded up with a bunch of immigrants, and they're out of here.
Have been offered the assistance of the United States military for airlift support as part of this program. The United States Air Force is going to supply 4 aircraft to remove up to 5,000 aliens that are already, I believe, being detained by CBP. How is this going to help you? Is this a necessary, or do you find this necessary, or this is just icing on the cake of getting these illegal immigrants out of the United States?
Absolutely necessary. We have limited funding right now, so anything DOD can step in and do this is a force multiplier. Whatever DOD does, whether it's building infrastructure, whether it's flying planes, or doing transportation, that means an ICE badge and gun is not stuck with those type of duties. They can actually be on the streets looking for the bad guy. So we're going to try to contract a lot of this work out, have DOD do the stuff that doesn't require immigration authority, have them do that job to release the immigration officers out on the street to arrest the criminal aliens. So yeah, this is in plans for a while. We made this happen in a matter of 3 days. So yeah, they're welcome a force multiplier for us, and it's going to help us a great deal, especially on removal flights.
And there's also some talk, I don't know if it's been done yet or not, but there's talk about Trump giving some of the parts of the military and maybe some law enforcement, FBI possibly, immigration enforcement powers, so that they can help remove some of these people and help ICE do the job, because it's an overwhelming task. I mean, just getting rid of the 1.2, 1.6 million people with deportation orders already is going to be a task in itself, especially since these governors and mayors are fighting against cooperating, and they're actually catching serious criminals, dangerous criminals, and then releasing them. They wouldn't do that to a citizen of the United States, release that person into the country if they're that dangerous. But they're doing it with illegal immigrants. It's crazy. It's crazy. So Trump went out and visited North Carolina and LA. Here's him talking about how they're going to help North Carolina rebuild. It's funny because it seems like North Carolina has kind of been forgotten about all of a sudden. Even like my church is collecting money for the fires in LA, and I'm kind of like, what happened in North Carolina? You guys didn't collect for them. And it seems like, I don't know, I mean, I'd argue maybe it's because there's so many rich people that live there, it's getting more popularity, or maybe because it's the new thing. But what happened in North Carolina? These people are still living in tents. or they're being kicked out of hotels because the FEMA money time ran out. And Trump's going to address that here in this next clip. And it's great to see somebody who's just open and honest and trying to help people out, which is clear in this clip that he's just there to try to help, and he genuinely wants to.
I'm pleased to announce that under our leadership, the federal government will be surging housing solutions to the state that go beyond mere temporary hotel stays that ended up being very short term. The government wouldn't do it any longer, which is ridiculous. We'll marshal all available resources and bring back potable water and make your water and infrastructure dramatically more reliable very quickly. Today I'll also be signing an executive order slashing all red tape and bureaucratic barriers and permits to ensure the rapid reconstruction of the roads here in western North Carolina. We're going to go through a permitting process that's called no permitting, just get it done. That's the way they built them many years ago, I guarantee you that, right?
So he's there, he wants to help. He wants to talk about deregulation, so he clearly understands that what's necessary to get things moving along, to get through the red tape. I mean, the guy's a businessman, right? And he's been dealing with real estate, and he understands working with government. I mean, he was in New York for crying out loud. So I'm sure that this guy understands red tape more than anybody. And he's going to remove it. He's going to make things move smoother. And I just want to show one more clip of him in North Carolina, where he's listening to somebody who was affected by this tragedy. And you can tell this is different than any politician that I've ever seen before. And it just shows how out of the ordinary he is, and how, in touch, for being a person who's pretty wealthy. I'm always surprised by how in touch with reality he is, and how down to earth he is, along with his family seems like that as well. But he's just, if somebody, any other politician, especially presidents I've seen in the past, when somebody talks like this in a microphone, they're in the background because they want to be in the shot. It's all about making it look good for them. It's about the appearance. For Trump, he's listening. This lady talks for over 5 minutes, and I've clipped on it, so it's not that long. But you get the idea of how intently he's listening and how much he actually has compassion for these people. So not only does he want to help because it'll be good for his legacy, but he cares, and you can see it. You can't, some of this stuff you can't fake. It doesn't matter how much you try. I mean, look at Kamala Harris tried faking caring about people. It was clear that was not the case. But he genuinely cares, genuinely listens to the story. And this is not the only lady that story he listens to like that. But I just wanted to give an example of how real and down to earth this man really is. And it's a good thing that he's our president right now.
I was home alone, and my husband had stayed in town because we take care of a little lady that's 98 years old, and she lives out in the woods by herself. And I said, just stay with her and make sure that she's okay. And I got up the next morning, and my first thought was, I want to go see what our road and bridge looks like. So as I was making it down to the road and the bridge, there was no road and bridge. And so, here we are, we're like a little island, we can't access the main road or anything. And then the fire department came by the next day and said that they were evacuating me and my neighbor because a landslide was going to come. It's just heartbreaking. I appreciate you.
Good daughter you have, huh? Good daughter. Take care of Mom.
So like I said, it's clear that he cares, and it's not a fake show either. I also feel like it really seems like Melania has come into her own in this season. You really didn't see too much of her between 2016 and 2020. And I think she was maybe, I don't know, for being a model, you'd think she'd be comfortable being in the public eye, but maybe she wasn't so much into politics. I mean, granted, Trump wasn't really going to run for office. It was supposed to be kind of a joke, although, we've talked about this before. He has the trend of making things a joke, kind of, and then seeing how they stick and, pursuing it if he thinks that it's stuck a little bit or it, caught on. So, but she's really seemed to come into her own, and also their relationship, they seem to be working more as a team this term, which is, awesome to see. I think we're going to be seeing more of her, and I think she's going to become more and more comfortable in her role as First Lady, and it's really kind of a different look. I like it. It's I've really noticed it this term more than ever. She does make her fashion statements, but I think she's doing more than that. And this next clip makes it obvious as well. So this is something we haven't seen in the last 4 years, and it's funny that it's so mind-blowing because it should be normal. But this is actually before, so we're doing a time warp, going back in time, before he left the White House on Marine One. And there's the press corps out there shouting, "President, Mr. President, Mr. President." And Trump, this is classic Trump. He has to go and talk to the media. But he's good at it, man. And he's comfortable. When he was signing all those executive orders in the Oval Office yesterday or the day before, maybe both, he allowed the press to stay in there and ask him questions while he's signing executive orders, listening to what each one is, so he's not just blindly signing them. And he allows them to stay in there for like an hour and ask him questions like it's nothing. The guy is a natural. But not only that, he's just transparent. Like I don't know, it's something about him, especially this season. I think maybe being persecuted the last 4 years has done something to the man. He was a little bit like this before. Maybe it's an age thing, but man, the guy just seems like he has nothing to hide. And I don't think he really does have anything to hide. But what a difference. I really, man, I respect the guy. He seems like he's really come a long way. Here's a clip of him talking to the reporters before getting on Marine One. And pay attention to Melania's attitude and how she stands there. She's listening to him. She laughs when he makes a joke. She's really seeming much more personable this year as well.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you. North Carolina, it's been a horrible thing, the way that's been allowed to fester, and we're going to get it fixed up. Should have been done months ago from the hurricane that took place almost 4 months ago. North Carolina's been treated very badly, so we're stopping there, and we're going to then go to Los Angeles and take a look at a fire that could have been put out if they let the water flow, but they didn't let the water flow, and they still haven't for whatever reason. So I think we're going to have a very interesting time. I think many of you are going with us. If you'd like to have a ride on the plane, we'd love to give it to you. I don't know. Is he going? Is he going? I don't know. I really don't. Because if he's going to be there, it would be cheaper, but I didn't invite him. Somebody did.
So as you can see, she seems more comfortable. He's clearly comfortable with the press and answers the questions. And they asked him about Schiff, because Schiff's going to be there. And he's like, I don't really like him, but if he's there, he's there. Whatever. It's kind of funny that he's candid, man. He's an open book. He's just telling you what he feels, and if he doesn't like somebody, he tells you he doesn't like somebody. What else could you ask for? That's what we want, right? When he first ran for office, the reason he won in 2016 is because he was a non-establishment candidate. And that's what people wanted. They were tired of the same old, people who've been in politics their whole life. And that's why he got in. And then we went right back with Biden, somebody who'd been in it his whole life. And we saw how that worked out. And so it was an easy, reversion back to what worked before, the lifetime politician who is just an open book and giving the people what he promised, or at least attempting to the best of his ability. So good there, and I love to see it. Now they're talking about the wildfires in LA and using federal funds to help rebuild there. But the key aspect that they're honing in on is the failures of the government there, and they're continuing to fail in the same actions that not caused the fire, but definitely didn't help prevent it, like it probably could have, or at least would have made it not as bad. So now they're talking about having some strings attached to the federal funding, because it's the only way that they can make sure that the money goes towards something of value. I mean, what are you going to do? Why would you give money to somebody who's going to continue? It'd be like giving money to a drunk, right? They're going to continue down the same path and spend the money on alcohol, right? If you give the money to California, you know that they're going to continue down the same path and either have another forest fire or spend the money where they're spent the rest of their budget on homeless people or illegal immigrants or green policies that don't stop forest fires, obviously, or prevent them. And so it would be a bad investment. And so they want to make sure that it's not a bad investment. So they're going to tie it to water resource management changes, forest management changes. And I've also heard a thing about talking about voter ID laws to make sure that it works. Voting works better in California, so we don't have to wait 2 months for their votes to get counted and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how far they push it. I mean, it seems insensitive, but like I said, we have to make sure this is taxpayer money, and Republicans need to make sure that the money is well invested. And if we're going to give the money to California, that they're going to do the work and make the changes so that this doesn't continue to happen, and that the federal government doesn't have to keep subsidizing their poor leadership, right? So it's good. I hope they can do it without taking a big hit, but this is early in the administration. I think that this is the time when you can get away with things, especially with so many positive changes happening right now. And it's interesting to see how they're going to push it. I'm here for it. So in the next clip, we're going to talk about, we're going to see Donald Trump talking about FEMA and the issues in FEMA and potentially getting rid of it, which I can see it being a benefit to what he's saying, because it's another federal government bureaucracy, and we need less federal government. The power needs to be in the states, and that's kind of a standard value of Trump that he goes back to over and over again, is give the power back to the states and out of the federal government. And to be honest, I think that gets rid of some of the partisanship in the country right now. The divide between people is because we've given so much power to the federal government. The founders, when they started the United States, I mean, the country would have never been started. We were never united as a group of states in the beginning if the federal government was going to be as powerful as it is today. It would have never been established. The only reason the United States was established under one constitution was because they agreed that most of the power was going to be left to the states. So we could have a very diverse country, state by state, and still get along, because each state could make its own decisions still. And only some pieces were left to the federal government, such as protecting the country, defending the country, defending the borders, and things like that, and making sure that states didn't infringe on people's rights. That was really a lot of the limitations of the federal government, because they saw what happened when a federal government became too strong, and they were very well read and well educated on that. So, anyways, to get back to this clip about what Trump's plans are for FEMA.
Will also be signed an executive order to begin the process of fundamentally reforming and overhauling FEMA, or maybe getting rid of FEMA. I think, frankly, FEMA is not good. I think when you have a problem like this, I think you want to go and, whether it's a Democrat or Republican governor, you want to use your state to fix it and not waste time calling FEMA. And then FEMA gets here and they don't know the area. They've never been to the area. And they want to give you rules that you've never heard about. They want to bring people that aren't as good as the people you already have. And FEMA's turned out to be a disaster. And you could go back a long way. You could go back to Louisiana. You could go back to some of the things that took place in Texas. It turns out to be the state that ends up doing the work. It just complicates it. I think we're going to recommend that FEMA go away. And we pay directly. We pay a percentage to the state. But the state should fix this. If the state did this from the beginning, it would have been a lot better situation. I think you guys agree with that, right?
So he wants to either abolish FEMA or change it drastically, and I'm for it. I mean, we need to seriously relook at every institution in the federal government and see what kind of changes we need to make to fix this and get rid of the bureaucracy and get rid of the top-heavy federal government that we have, and we need drastic change. I mean, I don't even think that he's going to be capable of making the drastic change that needs to be made, but this has got to be a start. We need to start the trend. So in our next news story, we talked about this a little bit before, but Trump wants to be a force in AI, and we saw him talk about that at Davos a little bit, and he wants to be the leader of AI. Now, Elon Musk, there's a controversy between Musk and Trump, and I think, it's being overblown. Every time there's a controversy in the Republican Party, everybody makes it sound like it's a complete meltdown. Trump knows who his friends are and his enemies are, and as long as you're willing to talk to him and have a discussion and cooperate, he's going to work with you. And so he's not willing. Everybody kind of thought that he was going to turn on Musk because of Musk's statements against Trump's movement towards investing in AI. But Trump kind of brushed it off. And so they want to talk about investing $500 billion in this AI project. And one of the key leaders in this project is Sam Altman, who was one of the founders of OpenAI. And Elon Musk doesn't like Sam Altman. And that seems to be what it all comes down to. He thinks he's a liar and a cheat. And maybe he's right, but Trump kind of just brushes it off and says, look, I've talked to Elon Musk about this. We kind of disagree on the trend, but I think we agree that we do not want other countries to be in the lead of AI. I mean, if I'm conflicted on the whole thing, but I do agree with Trump's statement that if we don't do it, other countries like China, India, who knows who else, are going to take the lead on this. And so I would rather us do it, because we're the arbiter of truth and goodness in the world, especially right now. And so I'm for it. I mean, I understand the argument, and I can't argue against it. So if this is what it takes, I mean, if we can't stop AI, you better join them, and you better be the best one out there. So Trump kind of just said, he doesn't like this guy. I don't like some people too. So I get it, but we'll figure it out. So great for Trump to just brush this off and be able to move forward, kind of get it out of the news because it's ridiculous, and we can move on and see how this goes. I mean, Trump knows how to get rid of people. He can fire them, metaphorically speaking. But I mean, get rid of Sam Altman and revoke the deal or pressure him into doing what he wants anyways. And that's the key of a good negotiator. So I think it's all going to work out fine. And I'm not really that concerned about it at all. I think that it's going to be great moving forward. So we'll see if anything further develops there, but I don't think there's much of a controversy. So the World Economic Forum was meeting this week, and Trump obviously was quite busy back at home in the Oval Office. And so he teleconferenced, I guess we'll call it, remote video conferenced in to give a speech and answer some questions. And he is not going to sit down and take these people's message. He is trying to change the culture of these rich people who think they're going to run the world. And I'm for it, man. He's showing strength, and this is really what the world needs right now. And so I got a clip of his speech, and then another clip we'll flip right into with him answering a question that they had about how some of his policy plans are going to have affect the United States' economy. And I think he answered it great. So here's the clip.
That's why from the moment I took office, I've taken rapid action to reverse each and every one of these radical left policies that created this calamity, in particular with immigration, crime, and inflation. On day one, I signed an executive order directing every member of my cabinet to marshal all powers at their disposal to defeat inflation and reduce the cost of daily life. I imposed a federal hiring freeze, a federal regulation freeze, a foreign aid freeze, and I created the new Department of Government Efficiency. I terminated the ridiculous and incredibly wasteful Green New Deal. I call it the Green New Scam. Withdrew from the one-sided Paris Climate Accord and ended the insane and costly electric vehicle mandate. We're going to let people buy the car they want to buy. I declared a national energy emergency, and it's so important, national energy emergency to unlock the liquid gold under our feet and pave the way for rapid approvals of new energy infrastructure. The United States has the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we're going to use it. Not only will this reduce the cost of virtually all goods and services, it will make the United States a manufacturing superpower and the world capital of artificial intelligence and crypto. My administration has also begun the largest deregulation campaign in history, far exceeding even the record-setting efforts of my last term. And I've made it official. An official policy of the United States that there are only two genders, male and female. And we will have no men participating in women's sports, and transgender operations, which became the rage, will occur very rarely.
This year you're not here, and yet this week was eventful from the orders that you mentioned earlier, literally a wave of orders coming out on immigration, on trade, and many other matters. And so, as a representative of the United States here, we got a lot of questions about what does all this mean and how would the president square this with his clear focus on growth, prosperity, market growth, stock market growth, a good bond market, and bringing down prices. So how do you think about the impact of all these orders and how fast they come out, and how you're going to balance them with that scorecard of being successful in both continuing GDP growth, bringing down inflation, and also having a good stock price appreciation for the American citizen?
Well, I think it's going to actually bring down inflation. It's going to bring up jobs. We're going to have a lot of jobs. We're going to have a lot of companies moving in. You know, Brian, we're at 21%. It was at 40%, and I got it down to 21%, the corporate tax. And it was actually, if you look at state and city, it was in many cases much higher than 40%. I got it down to 21%. And now we're going to bring it down from 21 to 15% if, there's a big if you make your product in the U.S. So we're going to have the lowest, just about the lowest rate. It'll be, the 21 is on the low side worldwide. The 15 is about as low as it gets. And by far the lowest of a large country, a large, you know, rich, powerful country by far, not even a contest. So we're going to bring it down to 15% if you make your product in the USA. So that's going to create a a tremendous buzz. We're also probably going back to the 1 year deduction where we deduct, we did that originally, and that was amazing what the impact that had, the 1 year deduction, which built up over a period of time, and then it expires. But we're going to go back to that when we do the renewal of the Trump tax plan. We have to get Democrats to approve it. But, if the Democrats didn't approve it, I don't know how they can survive with about a 45% tax increase.
Okay, so as you can see, he's going through. He's not pulling any punches, and he is going to show the world. Most of what he's saying is in direct opposition to most of the people in this forum. But good for him for standing up, and he's showing America's strong again. America's back, baby. So that's great to see. In my the last topic of the day, we're going to talk about the March for Life. So the March for Life is happening in Washington, D.C. right now. I actually went to a mass locally where our bishop said the mass, and a bunch of other priests were there, and a deacon. And they talked about, solidarity with the March for Life. So we had the mass basically at the same time that the March for Life was going on, so that we were kind of like matching what they were doing and be in solidarity with them. So I just want to show, I've heard from some people reports that the crowd was huge, and it was a different vibe this year than it's been in the past, which I get. I mean, we're moving in the right direction. Ever since the Dobbs decision, there's kind of been a cloud hanging over pro-lifers because people were so angry thinking that their rights to kill their baby were going to be taken away, which is mind-blowing, but, they don't get it. So I think that's kind of worn off. I mean, the Democrats have a habit of repeating things and repeating things and repeating things. And eventually the message wears out because people can only be afraid for so long. And then once they see that it didn't really happen the way they were told it was going to happen, they lose that fear. And so almost everybody who had the ability to kill their child before still has that ability to kill their child. And so I think that fear has kind of worn off. But the vibe is different, and the crowd was huge. So we're going to show you a clip here. Not so much of the speech that's going on in the background, but just it gives you a pan view of the crowd to see how massive it is.
Science is on the side of life. Science shows that life begins at the moment of conception and fertilization. From that time on, we know that a new human life in the womb possesses its own genetically unique DNA and is different from its mother and father.
So you can see the crowd is massive there, and faith is strong, and people are happy. There's a vibe change. So Trump also made a speech. He wasn't there, but he sent it a recorded speech, I believe it was, from the Oval Office. And, a lot of people say he's not really pro-life because of his stance of, whenever he was asked if he would sign a federal abortion ban, which is but I hope not never, but not in his term, is this going to happen? There needs to be a huge culture change before something like that happens. But they kept asking him to create fear. Would you sign a federal abortion ban? And he wouldn't answer the question because he says, I'll leave it to the states. And so he kind of got this idea put on him that he's not pro-life. But I think this speech clears it up. I mean, he respects the life of the unborn child, and he understands that the strength of this movement is growing, and that he doesn't want to, step on this movement or make anybody upset that's in the movement. And it's a great speech. It's kind of long. It's about 3 minutes and 30 seconds or something like that. But I think it's pretty clear his stance on saving the unborn. And here's the clip.
Hello to everyone at the March for Life. It's a pleasure to speak to you from the beautiful Oval Office. That's where we are right now, the magnificent Oval Office. And thank you for turning out once again to show your extraordinary love and compassion for the unborn. Each year, Americans of every age, color, and background travel to our nation's capital by the tens of thousands to stand up for precious little babies who cannot stand up for themselves. I am proud to be the first president ever to have joined you in person. As you know, this annual march started 52 years ago on the first anniversary of the disastrous ruling known as Roe v. Wade. That unconstitutional decision took power away from the states and the voters, kicking off 50 years of division and anger. But thanks to your tireless work and devotion across 5 decades, that historic wrong was set right 3 years ago. I was so proud to be a participant. 6 courageous justices of the Supreme Court of the United States returned the issue to the state legislatures and to the people where it belongs. It became a vote of the people. In my second term, we will again stand proudly for families and for life. We will protect the historic gains we have made and stop the radical Democrat push for a federal right to unlimited abortion on demand up to the moment of birth and even after birth. Think of that, after birth. And some people want that. Can you believe it? We will work to offer a loving hand to new mothers and young families, and we will support adoption and foster care. We will protect women and vulnerable children. Under my leadership, a reformed Department of Justice will finally investigate the radical left attacks on churches and crisis pregnancy centers, and we will bring perpetrators to justice. We will get them to justice one way or the other. I will also end the weaponization of law enforcement against Americans of faith, and I'm releasing the Christians and pro-life activists who were persecuted by the Biden regime for praying and living out their faith. I just signed that document, and they're being released. One such American was Paula Harlow. At 75 years old, Paula was sentenced to 2 years in prison after praying outside of a clinic. That's why she was sentenced to 2 years. That's what happened under the Biden regime. In her sentencing, the judge mocked her Christian faith while her husband pleaded to be thrown in jail with his wife, fearing she would die alone behind bars. This week, it was my honor to grant a full and complete pardon to Paula and many others who were the victims of this horrific weaponization. Never again will religious persecution be allowed to happen in America. To all of the very special people marching today in this bitter cold, I know your hearts are warm and your spirits are strong because your mission is just very, very pure, to forge a society that welcomes and protects every child as a beautiful gift from the hand of our Creator. Thank you for never losing hope and never giving up. Thank you for your tremendous support. God bless you and God bless America.
So good to see there. A nice message from President Trump. J.D. Vance was at the Parade for Life and the March for Life, I should say. And he gave a speech. And now he is staunchly pro-life. There's no question there. And it was a good speech. Here's just a little clip of what he had to say.
Now, I hesitate to give you all advice because I can see there are young and old people who have been in the pro-life movement, some of you for longer than I've even been alive, and I'm grateful to you. But if I can offer one piece of advice, it's a piece of advice born out of my own experience. There was a point when I would get frustrated with people who didn't see what we saw. I would get frustrated that people could look at a picture of a baby on an ultrasound and see not a human being, but just a clump of cells. But one of the things that being a father has taught me, and one of the things that being in politics has taught me over the last couple of years, is that it is a blessing to know the truth, and the truth is that unborn life is worthy of protection.
So great message from our new vice president. A strong, clear message that unborn life matters. Unborn life, is a human, has the same rights and protections as the born. And, they're really, the left is so inconsistent on this because, again, when you don't have standards, morals, and values, and you don't know the truth and what is right and what is good, you will never have a consistent message because it doesn't make any sense. There's no logic behind it. You can't say that a life is only a life when it's born because there's no science that backs it up. It is a life at conception. Science backs that up. That's the only way science can back up because it's the only thing that's consistent and makes sense. And they even go so far, and this is the trouble with having an inconsistent message, is that they go so far as saying that even after it's born, maybe you could go a couple weeks. There was a proposed bill in California that would let a mother kill its baby and not be charged, kill her baby, I should say, and not be charged for like 2 weeks after birth. There was a bill that came across, I believe it was the floor of the Senate, that was going to say that basically that if a baby was attempted to be aborted and lived, that the doctor would be required and the facility would be required to provide life-saving care. It seems pretty cut and dry and simple, right? What kind of human would just leave an innocent baby who's likely crying on a table, a medical tray? I don't know what they do. Whatever it is, it's inhumane because they're not planning on, having a live birth. These facilities are set up to kill. So they want to just let these babies die, and that's what they've been doing. A lot of these facilities, unless somebody actually has some sense of moral clarity in that facility, they let the baby die on the table, or maybe they kill it, do something to make the death happen. It's the same as partial birth abortion, which, thank the Lord, is no longer a thing, or no longer legal at least. But it's crazy. Some of these people just have no standards. And it's not usually it's not the people getting the abortion. They're not informed in most cases, at least the ones who have just done it once or are doing their first time. The ones who do it repeatedly, use it as birth control, I hold those people more accountable because I think they know what they're doing, obviously, if they keep doing it. But most of the people are not the ones. They're being told a lie, and they're convinced of the lie. And of course, they want to believe the lie, I think, to some extent, because it takes some of their moral guilt away. But for the most part, it's the people running the establishments, the people advertising these procedures, which are just kind of sickening to think about. Especially, if you're against, which most Democrats are against, requiring a facility to give these people educational materials before they go through an abortion, if you're against telling people about the procedure they're about to have, what other medical procedure would we allow to happen without explaining what it is? This is a medical procedure. A bad one at that. Terrible. But regardless, it's a medical procedure. Why would you not explain to the person what is happening and what the procedure entails? It's because they want the people to be naive. Criminal and sad. Anyways, that's the end of our episode today. Thank you for joining. I appreciate any comments or follows. And I'll see if I can put out a weekend episode this weekend. I got a lot of ideas for special weekend episodes, but it takes a lot of research to make them happen. And I've got an event this weekend. So we'll see what we can do. But thanks for watching and listening, however you consume the content. And don't forget to go out and volunteer for something meaningful and spark the conversation.